Welcome to Howay and Say. Newcastle United just drew 1-1 with Strasbourg, but lost 3-2 on penalties in the final game of the Visit Malta weekend. If you had to sum that game up in one word, what would you say?
Transformation.
Why?
Well,
I know why.
After what we watched yesterday, it was all doom and gloom, but pretty much for the whole game today, it was you kind of got some hope. We had the same sort of mixture of experienced and young players as we did yesterday, but it was a better performance, better turned out. I don't know whether there was more effort, but there was more targeted effort.
The experienced players stepped up today. Would you agree with that?
Certainly, we had the two most experienced players of Schär and Big Dan Burn, and it just seemed that they were the right players to look after whatever was on the pitch. They had a bit of calmness, I suppose. And
that, for me, transferred to the fullbacks. To transfer to those, it didn't look like they were young lads playing for the first time. You know, it looked like they were experienced. It was calm. There was never that panic when those two centre-halves were on the field.
Well, I think we saw a lot of long balls yesterday from playing out from the back. And the difference today was that Burn and Schär, between them, they were playing different passes. They tended to go back to the keeper yesterday and get launched. But today, we were going wide, we were going to the full-backs who were pushed out wide, and sometimes we were going into Bamba. He was taking that slot up that Schär had yesterday. So, yeah, totally transformed by having those two there.
It was. Yesterday we said that it didn't look like the Stars had any time and hasn't really changed the way that Newcastle play since Eddie Howe's left. But today...
It was pretty much the same as yesterday, but it looked like it worked a bit better today. So we had Schär and Bamba did exactly the same job, but Schär got it and he tried to play creative, clever passes. Bamba didn't do that. He did the same job and he was doing some shorter passes. He tended to go wide to the wingers. And the wingers, for me, that was... the thing that stuck in my mind was watching how Tuchel played, and I know that they're from the same sort of group as coaches. Yeah, but if we looked how England were playing, and the wide players for England were tucking in, and right from the start of the day you could see the same thing happening. So that identity, it started to come through, and it showed today more than it did yesterday.
And it was the fact that they were able to get on the ball in the middle of the park today, whereas against Leverkusen yesterday they couldn't. So they were able to link up, and the football was a little bit more exciting, a bit more free-flowing.
Agree with that. Two of the players we did have in there as well, they're more experienced as well, not forgetting. Yeah. I know that Ramsey isn't particularly old player. How old is he? 26? Maybe 27? No, not even that age. Him and Willock together, the pair of them, they must have 300 or 400 Premier League games between them, and suddenly you could see that yesterday in the centre of the midfield, and they've done the job. And you can criticise Willock all you like. He played well today, and we've seen him play well on and off.
When he plays well, he's brilliant. It's finding someone that can get that out of him consistently.
Well, just looking at the two of them, and I noticed this at the end of the Gateshead friendly, they look like they're pals. They walked out together, hand on the shoulder, chatting, and they seem to be pals and playing them together. I don't know whether that was an accident or a masterstroke, but they seem to work really well as a two.
Yeah. And the fact that obviously Dan Burn was captain, he went off, I think it passed on to Murphy, then Willock, and then finally finished with Ramsey. You know, that responsibility is there with them. They are in line for that captaincy a lot higher than they were last year.
Well, if you take Ramsey, for example, right at 5 or 10 minutes before the end, he was closing down. He was the furthest forward. He was 10 metres ahead of Asula, and he was bringing the young lads on with him. So he had two 17 or 18 year olds behind him, and he was urging them forwards to press and to close down, and they did it. It was great.
And that's kind of what the senior players in this squad need to do, isn't it? They need to step up, they need to demand more of the youngsters and help them along the way.
I think so. We had Bruno last season, and he was more like a cheerleader, and he was inspirational from that point of view. But if we're seeing that from Willock and Ramsey, and they can do that just by their actions and by people seeing them do stuff rather than being the whole cheering and all that kind of stuff, that definitely had the same kind of impact today for the other players like it.
Yeah. And then we look at the forward line. Obviously Asula was leading the line today. Just made such a difference compared to yesterday. His effort, his energy.
Yeah, I think it was difficult for me to say yesterday who was playing further forward. It was obvious today. It was obvious that we had the big guy playing up front and Willock running on to help him, particularly in the first half. You could see the runs that Willock was doing, and we identified that. We said we just haven't seen that from Willock, and that was his big strength, really, running on. And yeah, I think
Osula leading the line just brings so much more. And Willock in that number 10 role, he did look more comfortable, I think, than being a box-to-box midfield player. If we look at Liverpool, the team, Jaissle has now got a lot of headaches of who he's going to start with. I was just speaking before with Lane from Magnificent Mags, and we were talking about the goalkeeper. He's got a dilemma there now. It's centre half. Who's he going with? Right back, Leo Shahar stepped up. It's a great time. It's exciting again. I know it's just one game on, but you leave with that little bit more excitement, that bit more optimism. Like, who do you see starting in what positions? Who's fighting from today's game? Who's fought their way into the starting 11 next week?
I tend to go with what you were saying about Shahar earlier on. I didn't really think of him as being a standout defender previously when I've seen him play, but he seemed to be transformed today. He seemed to be on the ball. He was doing some decent strength on his tackles, which I hadn't seen before. But then he added to that. He was putting crosses in.
Yeah, he was getting forward. He looked, he wasn't. It didn't look like he was new to the game anymore.
Yeah.
He wasn't just, playing right back and making sure he was defending. He was getting forward. He was putting those balls in the box. He was linking up with Murphy. That chemistry on the right hand side actually looked, exciting.
Yeah.
Like something of, a throwback to Trippier and Almiron.
It might well be that sort of thing, and I think we've got to give some credit to Jaissle on that one, because this time last year, and even as far as the week before the end of the season, I thought that Jacob Murphy played his last decent game for Newcastle, and today
I've heard that a few times from.
Yeah, playing in a different role. He tucked in. He wasn't trying to get past people and cross it, and he was getting in there. So, like, in the channeling between the fullback and the centre half, and he was doing it consistently. He was coming in the middle, and he was switching with Willock, and he was switching with Ramsey.
And then when he did get the ball, he was just looking to whip it in, and his deliveries were good, because he wasn't trying to just pelt down the wing and whip it in. He was kind of getting in a position, getting the ball, and just delivering it.
Yeah,
and it was what they needed.
Perfect. And that, expanding on that about the way that the wingers have been positioned, Bars on the other side, he did exactly the same thing. He sort of changed a little bit towards the end where he started going outside, but perfect what he was doing. He was tucking in, and I've never been a fan of that, but what I saw today I really liked.
No, I normally say that I like to see a winger stay out wide, get the ball, beat the man, put it in, but today I can totally see something that has changed. He's drifted inside and they're going out to receive it and putting deliveries in. It was exciting. I mean, early on, I think it was Jacob Murphy right hand side, crossed it in, and Osula had a header saved early on.
Yeah.
Like, it got you off your seat, it got the excitement going.
Well,
bring on Liverpool.
Bring on Liverpool, and if we can do the same kind of thing that we did for the goal today, and we've slipped it in, and somebody's put a cross in, and we've got our striker charging in and putting it in almost at the back post, possibly in the middle of the goal. Why not?
No, I totally agree. I think the change from yesterday in the team and the atmosphere, and just how we're talking about it now is exciting again. But I think if you merge those two teams, the squad from yesterday and today, it looks like there could be something there. The problem we've got is they've not played together in this style, in this system, and the first test will be Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused, I suppose, with 2 weeks preparation time. I'm a bit confused as to why you don't have your best team in your last game before you start in the Premier League, because that way that Jaissle is going to see what he's got. He's going to see his what he thinks is his best 11. But he's the boss and we aren't, and presumably he knows. If he's watched the game the same as we have, he knows that the 60% that we've seen today and the 60% that we've seen from yesterday, those players mixed together, he's going to have a far better starting 11 than we'd worried about when all of the outgoing transfers happened.
Nice one. Well, let's look forward to Liverpool. Thank you.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.